Hello, today you find me at Jersey Zoo, this world-famous venue based in Jersey in the Channel Islands, founded many, many years ago by Gerald Dole, who was an environmentalist way ahead of his time. Now, historically, the visitor economy was significant to Jersey. It's been overtaken by our finance industry, which is now the main generator of economic activity on this island. What's great, though, is that we now have this idea of what we call green finance. Now, a quick definition of what we mean by green finance. That's finance to support economic growth while reducing pressures on the environment and taking into account social and governance aspects. Now, so what we are seeing is the marrying up of both our environmental interests as well as our finance interests. And I think that has the potential to create a brand new future in Jersey for our young people and for the health and sustainability of our island and, of course, our globe. I've now come to Grave de Leg, this beautiful beach on the northwest corner of Jersey. It's been in the headlines lately because of a controversial development down here behind me. And it's an issue which I think many people on Jersey have problems with. And that is, when is a space allowed to be just for an individual as opposed to a community space? In other words, shouldn't the community, shouldn't the small businesses in this area be making decisions about their local environment? Personally, I think absolutely. And I think it's really important that we hold on to that ethos as we move forward and maybe other developments come along. I live in hope for Grave de Leg because I think this is a massive opportunity for the community and I hope the right decisions are made in the long run for them. Welcome to Broad Street, a classic example of a hangover of how St Helier has this mixture of ownership. We have a road which is owned by the States of Jersey, but not run by the parish, and yet it was originally shut down by the parish and then not reopened by the States of Jersey. It is completely bonkers. What we need is a plan for St Helier. Broad Street should form part of a wider network, a wider connectivity around the whole of St Helier. No one is thinking it through, and as a result, Broad Street gets abandoned, businesses behind me abandon Broad Street, and we end up with an empty part of town to the frustration of huge numbers of retailers in this section. I'm now stood in the smarter living section of Jersey Electricity, and the reason I brought you here is because I want to show you the future of heating our homes. And this is an air source heat pump behind me, which will ultimately replace oil and gas-fired heaters and traditional ways of heating our homes. Now, it's massively expensive to do right now, and it's very difficult to see how you can easily transition from fossil fuel to this type of technology without there being an island-wide approach. And I think that's really, really important. We need to get that, sink that into our heads as to what we're going to do in the future. Now, on top of that, there's another technology which is hydrogen, and which is the most abundant material in the universe. And that's another source of energy, clean energy for us. Now, I would ask the question is, why do we not yet have a Jersey hydrogen company? We've got a Jersey electricity company, we've got a Jersey water company. I think we should be thinking about Jersey hydrogen company if we're going to think about island-wide solutions to reduce our carbon footprint going forward. But this is a start of a 10 anyway. Overdale. We're stood here by some of the houses that are being compulsory purchased on behalf of us, the general public, so as to build a brand new £800 million hospital. The sad fact is that the house behind me here, a listed building in its own right, housed Joan Lowry, MBE. She's been here for 60 years, she's been pushed out of our home, and so have so many of the residents of Westmount. We've basically seen the destruction of a community in plain sight. I find that totally intolerable. There's got to be other solutions, and I would like to see the day that Joan Lowry comes back and lives in her home for the rest of her life. I'm stood outside the Overdale crematorium, and behind me is a radio mast. Now, the new hospital proposal is that the roof at its highest point will be at the very top end of that radio mast. That is extraordinary domination of the St Helier skyline, and I'd just like to point it out to you, is this something we're prepared to put up with? Okay, I'm stood in Millennium Park, this lung right in the middle of St Helier, which obviously took a huge amount of controversy to get built initially, and I think now everybody would say, thank God it's been done, don't take a step back from that. However, in my sense is only half the job's been done. What we need to do is we need to carry on down behind me here where the old gasworks were, gas site, up to St Saviour's Road, and build that park as soon as possible. If there's something we've learnt from the pandemic, that is that public spaces are vital for people's. Now, I've crossed swords a little with Reform Jersey on this. I'm conscious that they are keen to have a Millennium Park, but their proviso is they need more educational facility, and they're kind of using this as a bargaining chip. For me, that's way too political. Let's just get on and build a Millennium Park. Just over to my left here, there's Le Bar Centre. Now, Le Bar Centre is this, again, big site. It's been talked about for about 15 years to try and get development happen on that, and still nothing's happened. What about a school over there? So I think the spaces are around in St Helier, and particularly in St Helier North. We've just got to find them, we've got to release them and get on with it. But in the meantime, surely we have to deliver a Millennium Park. Just want to consider what the future of our economy is going to look like, and that's why I'm stood inside the offices here of Digital Jersey, which has been a major investment initiative by the government of Jersey. Really important area to be considering going forward. We talk about agri-tech, we talk about fintech, we talk about data storage, we talk about green technologies. Huge number of new world activities which didn't exist 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's really important that Jersey gets on the front foot. So the things we need to do as an island are, we've got to align our educational system with the new digital economy. And if we can get those two bits together, then I think our future is really sustainable going forward in Jersey. Hello, I'm stood in front of the steam clock. Now, this steam clock in this whole area was part of a greater master plan which never really ever took off. Now, one of the things which I'm standing on is this linkage. How do we link St Helier together, the different disparate elements together? And this is very much a separate area. However, on a positive note, behind me we have Fort Regent, which is built on a hill. That's because it's a fort and impenetrable. But wouldn't it be an idea if we could make some kind of connection from here up to Fort Regent? Dare I say we could reintroduce a cable car? Just think about how amazing that would be for anybody sat in the square over here and having a look and watching people go up to the fort. Maybe it's the trigger to revitalise our fort. I'm stood in front of the Opera House, which was a very strong topic in the south of St Helier hustings. People are so frustrated. This iconic building remains closed and appears to be staying closed for the foreseeable future. The question is, where is the art strategy? Who's delivering it and when are they delivering it? I thought if there's one thing we learned from COVID, that is that the arts are vitally important to people's mental health and mental well-being. Surely we should be making a huge amount of effort to get this iconic building up and running again and back to where it was in its heyday. I'm stood in front of St Helier House. This is one of those buildings that's been abandoned for the last 4 years. Abandoned for the right reasons, to be honest with you, because the Grenfell issue and the terrible fire meant that cladding became unsafe on this building. However, what do we now do with it? Because we've got to move on, and a lot of people will be saying, oh, that's first-time buyer property. Well, what about thinking about our older generation, about the baby boomers who are at the beginning to retire now? What if this was turned into a site where the over 50s lived and they could watch out for each other in this particular site? Nearby is a bowling green just up the road. There are shops as well, and also I'm stood at the north end of People's Park, so there's plenty of green space as well. I think this is a great interesting opportunity and fits in with this idea of St Helier being full of different communities. The hospital. I know a lot of people are sick and tired of hearing about the hospital and actually just want to get it done. Well, our Better Way group and the people around me, we also want to get it done in a very quick time frame, but we want to get it done at a sensible price which doesn't mortgage the future generations. Behind me is the existing hospital. It has the road network around it. It is in the middle of town. It is easily accessible by A&E for day patients. The footprint is big. All the various aspects that we need to have a great hospital are already down there. There are many drawings, there are plans that have been put forward which have already been passed, which will enable the hospital to remain there and for Overdale to be a secondary recuperative site. So let's go back, have a look at those plans that are already out there and decide which one is the best, which one fits the purposes, which is the best value for money, and let's get it done.